Hey guys, welcome back to Vertical Momentum. I'm your host, Richard Kaufman, also known as the Comeback Coach. Guys, thank you for being resilient warriors. Thank you for being my dubs. I love you guys. This is going to be an amazing episode. We're going to talk, my friend Hernan is going to talk to you about how to recession proof your business. This is something you're only going to learn today on this show. So make sure you subscribe and leave and make sure you save this so you can share it out. This guy, if I have any questions about advertising, branding, he is the advertising dude. So if you need any kind of information, this is the dude to go to. And I'm pumped. I finally have him on. It took forever, but thank you, brother. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Richard. Hey, everyone. It's really, really nice to be here. Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
I love it. So my first question is, what is your definition of resiliency, especially in business? Because as we've learned over the last 3 years, either you pivoted or you were out of business.
Yeah.
So what is your definition of resiliency?
I think that that's a great definition. It's the ability to either win or learn, right? So you're either winning out there, so you do something that is successful and you win, or you learn, right? And you do something that is not successful, which is most of the time, and you learn. So I think that that's my definition of resiliency, because as you properly stated, especially in my field, which is digital marketing, things are always changing, right? Right now we're in a weird time, and right now we have, kind of a weird economy happening, and also AI is coming up at a really rapid, accelerated pace for us marketers, right? And for every business owner. And just a couple of years ago, we had the pandemic. So I think that the definition of a business owner, of an entrepreneur, and the definition of resiliency, they go hand in hand. So it's the ability for you to keep on moving forward, where you are either winning or learning. That would be it.
All right. So obviously you don't have the nice Italian New Jersey accent. So you're not from around here. Tell us a little bit about, where you come from, where you grew up, and how'd you get into this crazy world of advertising?
That's a great question. So I'm originally from Buenos Aires, from Argentina and South America, right? I was born and raised here in a kind of a middle-class family in a third world country. And then, throughout my career, I've been blessed to work with some of the biggest names in digital marketing. Right now, my company serves mostly US and Europe-based companies. But I was born here. I was born and raised here. Now, middle-class family, and the run of the mill was go to college, get a degree, right? Get good grades, and get a job. That was basically it, right? That was the gist of everything, right? You needed to go to school, you needed to get good grades, then you need to graduate from college and get a job. And that's exactly what I did. And I did it pretty well, actually. I got good grades. I was a good student and whatnot. And then I got a job. But, before that, I remember that my parents, when I was growing up, they all had their own like regular traditional jobs. But they were also, like, as a side gig or as a side hustle or something like that, they were also into MLM, right? MLM companies. So they joined a couple of MLM companies, right, here in Argentina. And that worked or it didn't work to a certain degree and whatnot. But I remember that one of the things that they had was a lot of training. MLM companies, they do have a lot of training, self-development, sales training, and all of that. And I remember that I was like, I don't know, probably I was like 11, 12, 13 years old. And I had access to these books. Like in my house, there was always books, and books like Think and Grow Rich, right? Books like Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, those type of books, right? Like classic books on relationships and whatnot. So I started reading them from a really young age, just because they were there, right? Just because they were there. We didn't have, internet and all of that back in the day. So they were there. So that was my kind of entertaining. So fast forward to after college and after I graduated, I kind of, left a mark on me. So I really wanted to go ahead and do my own thing. But right out of college, fresh out of college, I got a really good job. Like I got a job that was really coveted, I would say, because it was a really good paycheck. It was those type of industries or companies in Argentina where you go in, you would work like 35 years for a company and you would retire with a golden Rolex. That was the deal. So that was my mission, was to go get a job in one of those companies and then just stay there. And I got that job. I got the dream job. I was young, I was making good money and whatnot, but something like really wasn't kicking for me. It wasn't, I think it was these books and being exposed to these things that I thought that there was more to life than just, than a day job. So I went ahead and, I had a really good job. In fact, the job was in walking distance from my house. It was really near, it was really comfortable, but I didn't feel fulfilled. So the question that I asked myself was, okay, right now I'm young. I can take a risk. And what would happen if I would like dedicate 10 to 15 years to this career, right? To build a career in corporate. And maybe I would get like a manager position or something along those lines, right? But what if I would take the jump? I would burn the boats. I would go all in on my own stuff, which I didn't really know what was it at the time. What could happen if I dedicate diligently, if I work hard for the next 10 to 15 years? Because I was bound to work hard anyways, right? Whether it was for somebody else or for my own. And I realized that the sky was the limit, So I went ahead and I quit my job. And to the surprise of many, including my parents, to the surprise of everyone, I was crazy. I was like, dude, you just landed your dream job. Why are you quitting? Right? Like, it didn't make sense. And I just knew that I had to do it because there was something else in me, that I wanted to go out there and explore. And it took me definitely a couple of years of suffering and not being able to, to sustain myself and whatnot, to get to a point where I was like, okay, well, I made a good decision. Because I remember that one of the things that I thought was, should I go back to get a job? Like 2 years in, maybe a year and a half in, 2 years in, I was like, should I go back to get a job? Should I go back to, to the grind and whatnot, to corporate? Because I saw my friends, the people that I went with through high school with, I saw them that they were, getting better pay, and they were getting a raise, and they were getting better house, and they were getting better cars. And I was still like spinning my wheels, right? So that was kind of, when I got started in this entrepreneurial world. And then I would say probably 6 years later, probably 7 years later, I bumped into the advertising world. But that was basically how I got started into, quote unquote, this entrepreneurial, crazy entrepreneurial world. So,
okay. Now, for me, even just the last 3 years, the whole world has changed on its axis. I mean, 3 years ago, if I was going to do a podcast, it was usually audio only. Now you got StreamYard, you got Restream, you have, all these different things, including AI, which I'm a big fan of. I use it as a tool. I don't use it as a crutch. But I see a lot of people complaining about AI. We'll talk about that later. And they're saying, well, it's going to take my job. Well, then obviously you weren't doing your job good enough if you're worried about it taking your job. Because no matter, if you don't know how to use a tool, it doesn't matter how good the tool is. Like if you give me a hammer, I can't put anything together. I break stuff. So if you give me a hammer and I don't know how to use it properly, it does me no good. And I think that's the same thing with AI. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But now, when you first got into the world of advertising and branding and marketing, it was a totally different game than it is now, correct? So what was that like coming into the game of marketing, branding, and advertising?
So yeah, it was totally different. It was way different. I remember that the first time that we were starting to run Facebook ads, and the reason why I had to learn how to run advertising was because back in the day, one of my first companies, it was I partnered up with my first like partners abroad, a group of fellas, and then we founded a company, a training company called Semantic Mastery, right? And my partners there, we had Bradley, who was the singing voice, and we were actually producing content. He was producing content about SEO for local businesses, right? He had his own agency. I actually cut my teeth in SEO as an agency. That was the first agency that I put together, was about SEO. And we used to provide services for local businesses. So we come together and we kind of discuss all of our teachings and all of our learnings and everything that we learn. And we serve other agency owners that wanted to serve small business owners and local businesses and give them better SEO results, right? So that was kind of the business. And I remember that we put together a course, a program called IFTTT SEO Academy. So IFTTT is like a Zapier, it's like an automation tool, it's still around. And it stands for if this, then that, right? So we used a lot of automation, excuse me, 7 years ago, we used a lot of automation to actually rank websites, right? We used a lot of spam to rank websites, right?
Mhm.
So that was kind of the gig, right? Back in the day, like 6-7 years ago, you can get away with a lot more than you can right now, even 8 years ago. So we put together these course out of everything that we learned using IFTTT to rank websites and whatnot, and we launched it out there. I remember we first launched it on JV Zoo, right? And JV Zoo, it's a platform, it's a website where you can go to get JVs to promote your product. So we tried that at first. We put our product on JV Zoo and we reach out to a bunch of people to see if they wanted to promote our products. And we didn't have a track record. The product was brand new, so nobody really listened to us. So we decided to give it a shot to paid advertising. And I raised my hand and say, okay, well, I'll try to give it a shot and see how this works. So the first ads that we run for that course were for a lead magnet, right? We used to run ads to a lead magnet. There was a bunch of recipes on how to set up IFTTT for SEO. And I remember that we used to get like a dollar leads, or 70 cents per lead in the US, which right now it's like 10 to 15 to 20 times that. But back in the day, we used to get like really good results, and we used to, because nobody was really advertising on Facebook, right? Like people weren't advertising on Facebook. The cost to advertise on Facebook were so much cheaper. And then also the policies, like we used to say some things on the ads that we would get shut down nowadays if we wanted to say that. So it was, as much as kind of every technology is at the beginning, kind of a little bit of the wild, wild west, right? Like Facebook was really, like Google, for example, Google Ads was really permissive at the beginning and it was really cheap and everyone wanted to jump in. SEO was like the wild, wild west. And now we have the wild, wild west again with AI and all of these things happening. But I think that then a platform matures and now you start like advertising and the costs go up and whatnot. But yeah, it changed dramatically from that point where we were able to run traffic to a lead magnet, then get people to buy a $47 product. We were making money. And now things became a lot more sophisticated. So we have to develop some other funnels. We need to work with additional math that we didn't have to work before, because I remember that I also, one of my first clients running Facebook ads, he used to run ads to an automated webinar that sold a $997 offer. So he would have it was a 2.5 hour long webinar. And he would have a pitch at the end for a $997 offer, and he crushed it with it. He made a lot of money with it, because the offer was really good, the product was really good, and I was running the ads, and the ads were also really good. So he crushed it with it. Nowadays, what we're seeing is that 2.5 hour, 2 hour long webinar, they don't work as well anymore because the time span of people, shrank. So we need to do 15-minute webinars or 20-minute webinars. And then if you are planning to make money on a $997 offer, you might make a little bit of money, but you're closer to break even than, let's say, 6 years ago, where you could make like 4 times your money. So those things were the things that kind of changed. The cost rose to advertise. People got a little bit more jaded, more sophisticated. So now there's different funnels that we're using for clients. So yeah, it's been a while, right? And, talking about resiliency, you need to be on top of those things and apply strategies when they work. And you also need to be investigating and researching what works for other people and try new stuff, because, techniques, strategies and whatnot, they fade away and they stop working. What doesn't stop working though is the fundamentals. Once you understand the fundamentals of copywriting, the fundamentals of what make people buy, take action, what make people reach out to you, what make people actually want to do business with you, that's where the techniques, the strategies, the platforms, they don't matter as much, right? So that's what I learned working with some of these big guys, is that they keep on focusing on the fundamentals, right? They keep on focusing on honing down on the fundamentals, because then the techniques and strategies are kind of secondary to those fundamentals. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes a lot of sense. And for me, I was 50 years old when I started learning this stuff. So I had to take a deep dive, and thank God for my friend Russell Brunson. He actually helped me with his courses and then talking to him. But he said there was a point where, you could just get 1,000 backlinks, and you're going to get in the first two or three, of Google listings. And then all of a sudden, Zuck and Google just slapped everybody around and changed the whole game to where, now, you have to, like for us, if you Google vertical momentum, we're on the first 4 pages of Google, but it's built up over time, and it's doing the proper things and not looking for the shortcuts. And I think, when people think SEO, or they think, marketing, branding, advertising, you have to take the shortcuts. And like you were saying, I'm a big basketball guy, and we know there was a great Argentina player, played for the Spurs at one time,
Yeah.
Manu Ginobili.
Manu Ginobili.
But he did the basics very well. He may not have gave you 50 points, but he was going to give you 10, 10, 10, 10 every day, and he did the basics very well. Yeah. So I think that's something you're talking about, is fundamentals. And even if we're in another age, I still think old school versus new school works great, because if it's all about, for me, building relationships. And I think the more relationships you build, even offline, I think are more important nowadays about what people are saying about you nowadays than it used to be. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, totally. I love what you just said. It's funny how things turn around and how things cycle, right? Like, for example, yesterday I got a book from Brian Kurtz at Titans Marketing, and he sent me his book, and then he also sent me the Breakthrough Advertising Mastery book, right? So it's a book that he put together. So Breakthrough Advertising is kind of the Bible for everyone that's advertising, right? Eugene Schwartz. I actually have yeah, so it's great. So I have you cannot see it because it's blurred, but I have a picture of Eugene somewhere around there, So I'm a big dork of copywriting and marketing and whatnot. And I also have Russell's books back there. So, and Dan Kennedy somewhere around there. But I'm a big fan of all of these guys, right? Because they focus on the fundamentals of what make people think. And I think that's funny, because I got so excited when I got the package, right? Like right now, it's so exciting to get something on the mail, right? And I don't know, 20 years ago, it wasn't the case. It was like you were getting a lot of junk, and you will get excited when you will get an email. And now it turned all the way around. Like people get excited when they get like an actual package on their mail. So I think that, as long as we focus on the fundamentals, it doesn't really matter what, the economy does, what Facebook does, what Google does, like right now, for example, Facebook, with all of the layoffs that they recently had, what I'm noticing and what we have been kind of, working with clients through is that since they had a lot of people let go, many of those people were part of their policy team. So now they're relying a lot on AI and machine learning to make decisions as to what ads get approved, what ads get disapproved, what ad accounts get approved or what ad accounts get banned. And a lot of people got banned all of a sudden without any explanation, right? So that changed. And if your business depends on the traffic that you are generating through Facebook advertising, that's a really tough spot to be in. And I'm an advertising guy, right? So I'm saying this, and we help our clients work through that. But the point is that I try to stay and stick to the fundamentals over and over again, like coming up with a good offer, right? Creating goodwill in the marketplace, helping people And the, the maxim that I try to live with, which is what goes around comes around. There's a great book called Influence by Robert Cialdini. It's a fantastic book. It's a phenomenal book. What's interesting about that book is that, Cialdini is an anthropologist, and the book wasn't really written. It was written for academia. It was written for other scientists, right? And it didn't really caught fire on those circles. But then marketers got a hold on that book, and we made it blow up. And now Cialdini is writing stuff for marketers and entrepreneurs. And the reason why I like that book that much is because it kind of breaks down the fundamentals of what makes us tick, right, as a society and as human beings and whatnot. And so, for example, there's the principle of reciprocity. One of the principles that Cialdini talks about is it's a simple principle that we are hardwired to kind of respond and live by, because if somebody does something nice for you, then you feel obligated to reciprocate, right? So that's why when it comes to the customers and the clients that we have at Scale Driven and the students that we have, I keep on telling them, try to put out quality content, try to put out, goodwill in the marketplace. People that have been doing this for 10, 15, 20 years are able to attest to the power of something like that. I heard Tony Robbins said once on stage, I was at one of his events, and he was like, right now you can drop my name anywhere and you can fill up a stadium in the middle of the desert, right? And the reason why that happens is because I've been putting out content and goodwill in the marketplace for the past 20 years, right? So now you say Tony Robbins anywhere and boom, you fill up a stadium, right? So I think that going back to the fundamentals and what makes us tick as human beings, it has a lot of power, especially if you're trying to build a recession-proof business, especially if you're trying to get ahead right now in these weird times. That's how I saw, businesses grow throughout the pandemic, and how I'm seeing businesses grow back now in these kind of weird recession times is go back to the basics, go back to the fundamentals, because fundamentals do not change.
Yep, like Manu was the man, fundamental. And even he played with a guy named Tim Duncan, and they called him the big fundamental for a reason.
Yep.
All right, so, because like for me, I'm always learning. I'm a 9th grade dropout, but I've read over 6,000 books. I have 15 books going right now, 2 Audible books going, and one of the Audible books is by my friend Pat Flynn, a book called Superfan. We don't like I live in New Jersey. I live close to Giant Stadium, and there was an artist that came here. Her tickets were selling between 10 and 15 grand per ticket. And I asked the guy who actually helped build her brand. He says, because she builds relationships. She'll have people she has like 6 houses. She'll have her fans come to the house for coffee and pizza and hang out with them. And then she builds raving fans. And I think that it's something that we need to, as business owners, like for me, I call my fans my resilient warriors, or my dubs, for warriors. And I know that I can put a book out and they're all going to go out and get it. But because I've built relationships with them and I care about them. So talk to us about building relationships and how important it is to build a fan base where they're not only, because they're not just buyers. People that buy stuff are people. And a lot of people forget that and just think, well, they're going to buy my book or my coffee or whatever. No, they're people. And if they know that they're loved and cared about, you got a fan for life. So talk about that.
Yeah, totally. And, one of the things that I started back in my career, I remember that I started back on Fiverr. Fiverr.com was kind of the first website that actually made me money online. It was the first website. I remember that my first breakthrough as an entrepreneur was when I was writing articles on Fiverr.com. And mind you, this was like 10 years ago. So Fiverr.com is not the Fiverr.com that we know of right now. It was a really rough bunch of entrepreneurs trying to do something, semi-legal for $5 there, right? So you wanted to get somebody beaten up, you could get it done for $5 if you wanted, Fiverr.com.
Sounds a lot like Reddit today.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Exactly that. So anyways, right now they have billboards on the New York City subway and whatnot, but now back in the day it wasn't like that, not at all. So anyways, I was writing articles there for people. And then the first time that somebody gave me money, somebody, a complete stranger gave me money, was on Fiverr.com. And I would get $4 for an article because Fiverr would take $1 out of the top. So I would get $4. And that was the first time that somebody gave me money over the internet, complete stranger, somebody that I didn't knew. And I was like, wow, we're onto something here, right? This is real. But what a lot of people on Fiverr would used to do is that if you would do a good job, they would try to build a relationship with you outside of Fiverr, right? So they will use Fiverr.com as a kind of as a scouting website, right? So they will go there, they will need a logo. So they will ask like 5 people, 5 different logos. And then the dude or dudette that did the best job, they will try to hire them. And that's how I met one of my friends. And right now, my agency CRO, Jeremias. And Jeremias, he's from Argentina too. He lives in he has lived in California for many years, and so he introduced me to Frank. He introduced me to Frank Kern. He's like, dude, you need to start learning from this guy called Frank Kern. This was 10 years ago. So I started learning from Frank Kern. I became a big fan of Frank Kern, and so we've had a relationship with Jeremias for 10 plus years. And now he works with me at my agency, and he's one of the main one of the main levers for growth that we have right at the agency. And that started just by chance on Fiverr.com. But then he told me to go after Frank. I went ahead and learned a lot about Frank Kern and whatnot. And then at some point, Frank Kern launched his continuity program, his membership site. And this was, I don't know, probably 5 years ago or a little bit more. And he launched it. It was called the Frank Kern Inner Circle. And I remember it was $400 a month. And the reason I remember it was $400 a month, it was because it was a lot of money for me to pay $400 a month back then, And but I went ahead and I bite the bullet, and I went ahead and joined his community. And I made my sole purpose in that community, right? That was led by Frank Kern and Frank's team. I made my sole purpose in that community to be as helpful as possible with everyone, right? With everyone within that community, I would try to give something, right? And at that point, I was full on running Facebook ads. So I would help a lot of people with their Facebook ads. I would just like hop on calls with people, right? If they have a Facebook ad issue, I would hop on a call with them. Every time somebody asked something on the Facebook group, I would go ahead and reply it. And I will go out of my own way to actually be really helpful, to the point that first, I created a lot of good relationships in that group. But second, Frank's, and I caught Frank's eye. And then when the opportunity came in, when they were needing a media buyer to join their team to do ads for them and for their clients, they came to me and they say, hey, dude, do you want to work with us? And I was like, of course I want, right? So that was the relationship that kind of changed the trajectory in my career, because then I went to work with Frank, and I was his marketing director and CMO and main ad guy and main traffic guy for 3.5 years. But first off, it allowed me to work hand in hand with him, and be really close to him and learn from him. And, he's a genius, and I love that dude. But most importantly, this was the relationship that kind of changed the trajectory of my career, because then I not only did all of his Facebook ads and ran all of his traffic, but also I did a lot of teaching in his community, right? So for all of his students, there were like, I don't know, a couple thousand people in that community. I did all of his teaching, and I trained everyone on Facebook ads and whatnot. And to this day, one of the things that I get a lot is like, oh yeah, I used to be on your calls when you used to do this for Frank Kern, and I loved it and whatnot. How can we work with you and whatnot? So that one relationship can, just one relationship can change your life. I know that it did for me. And then it opened a lot of additional doors for me to work with some other big players. So investing in relationships and getting out of your own way to invest in relationships and being as helpful as possible can literally change your life. It did for me. So,
yep. All right. So real quick, then I want to take an even deeper dive into what we just talked about. Guys, as you know, I was in the military for 23 years. I was with GNC for over 30. I loved coffee. I loved energy drinks, but they all tasted like ass. Or they gave me the runs and I had to go to the bathroom as soon as I drank it. So I started my own coffee company called Vertical Momentum Coffee. Twice the energy, twice the caffeine, no crash. The best part, it's all made by veteran hand roasted, and it's 100% of the proceeds, 100% of the profits go to help veterans struggling with PTSD and homelessness. I don't make any money off of it, but I'm saving lives. So for every pack you buy for 1 year, we're going to take 12 families, veterans and their families, take care of them health, physically, mentally, spiritually, and financially for 1 year at zero cost to the soldier. So, guys, if you love coffee with a mission, write coffee down below, and I'll let you know. I'll get you that information. Also, guys, as we're talking about, phones and computers, companies are getting hacked every single day. Companies are getting held for ransom every day. Our friends at Indy's IT department, Daniel Curry, is actually a United States military veteran that operates a cybersecurity company. He keeps all of our security, all of my phones, my tablets, my kids' phones, my computers safe. So if you guys are concerned about security for your phones, why not have somebody that wrote a check up to their life to protect this country, protecting your family's equipment. So definitely check them out if you're interested. Write cyber down below, and I'll get you that information. So now let me ask you a question, because when I started out on the podcast, I knew nobody. I had no guests. But now 3 years later, we've had you on, David Meltzer, the authors of Rich Dad Poor Dad, Steve Sims. But the way I started building relationships is, like I said, because I'm such a big reader, that when I'm reading a book and I get something out of it, every Friday, I will put that book out on all my social media. I will put the buying link and I will tag that person on it, so they know that their products are being sold, and I'm trying to get their products sold, and I'm not asking for anything in return. And for me, that's how I'm building. That's a hack I used to help build more relationships. So, because I believe, like you said, if I didn't build a relationship with my friend Kelly Cardenas, I wouldn't be able to build a relationship with Eric Allen. And I sure as hell wouldn't be interviewing the drummer for Def Leppard next month. But if I didn't start that relationship 5 years ago, I wouldn't be where I am today, because I believe the more value you bring, the more life gets you. I'm a big karma guy. I believe in the more value I give, the more it comes back to me. So talk to us about that, because I think that's very important. What you said is you invested $400 a month, but you had a plan because you were going to invest in him and also the people in the group. So talk about that, providing value, how important that is, especially in today's world.
Yeah, it's super important. I'm a big karma guy as well. I'm a big believer of what goes around comes around. Definitely, I'm a big believer on that. And I think that relationships, they don't only apply to to potential business opportunities, right? Like, for example, right now at scale-driven.com, we're getting close to 35 people right now. Employees around the world and whatnot. We have a small team in South America, and we have a small team in South Africa and Eastern Europe. We have a small team in the US. So it's it's starting to get a decent size in terms of employees and whatnot. And one of the things that I realized is that a couple months ago, actually the beginning of this year, I realized that how important it was for me to bring someone that will take the operations to the next level, right? When it comes to our digital marketing agency. Because the reality is that I'm good at marketing, I'm good at the ads, I'm good at the offers, but I'm not that good at management. I'm not that good, as a manager and dealing with that stuff. And I realized that there's some people that love it. They would do that all day, and they're much, and so I decided that I needed somebody that will take us to the next level in terms of operations. And I started digging into, bringing a potential COO, a chief operations officer and whatnot to the agency, a head of operations. And the reality is that I did some interviews and whatnot, but the one of the excuse me, one of the candidates, funny enough, was a person that I knew through a mastermind that I joined, that I also invested in, and I started making relationships 3 years ago. So 3 years ago, we've been in a mastermind together. We've been in a group. We've been discussing stuff and whatnot. And he has his own company, but he's kind of, on a really high level, top COO/CEO role. So he doesn't do much of the tactical stuff anymore. So he was looking for the next thing. And I talked to him and I'm like, dude, that like, it would be a pleasure to come in, for you to come in and help us take this thing to the next level. So I think that, and he, he agreed, and I trust him because we've been building this relationship for the past 3.5 years. And we know each other. We know what our struggles have been because we've been, sharing them openly on this mastermind. So I think that building relationships is one of the best things, one of the best investments that you can make, not only for potential opportunities like you're doing for guests and you're doing for, for your business, but also for potential collaborations and employees. Again, Jeremiah's 10 years ago, we started hanging out, and because he's like, oh yeah, you're from Argentina too, blah, blah, blah. And now 10 years later, we're still good friends. And, he's part of the company as well. And he's been, instrumental in the growth of it. So getting out of your own way to provide value for somebody else, it's one of the best things that you can do. Lately I've been listening to a lot of Alex Hormozzi's content and podcasts and whatnot. The guy puts out really, really good stuff. And he used to do the same, right? He will join a mastermind and he will try to make relationships and to be in good terms, as to be as helpful as possible with as many people as possible within that community. And you don't have to, if you really want to change your business or the trajectory of your business, you can do this in 30 days or 60 days. You just need to be consistent. One of the things that I used to do to get my agency off the ground and to get my first couple clients was I would go, for example, into a Facebook group, right? It could be whichever Facebook group that has your ideal avatar in it. And I would actually post a really helpful piece of content every single day. So I would sit down, I would write down a really helpful piece of content that would actually help people. Think about stuff that you would charge if you were putting together a course, right? And just put it out there for free, right? So that's what I did. I went ahead and I went into these Facebook groups and I started like really going in deep into how to run Facebook ads, how to increase lifetime value of a customer, how to get more leads, all of these things that I knew how to do. And all of a sudden, people started reaching out to me and say, hey, dude, I love your content. I want to work with you. How do we do it? Let's get started. Let's go. Or if people weren't reaching out, then they would say, oh, I have this friend, or I have this, this other partner, or I know this person that they need your help with Facebook ads. That's how we got the agency off the ground. That's basically it. So we just needed to be consistent with putting out content, with being helpful, with actually giving out, the farm on the content that we were putting out. And then opportunity will come and business will come, especially in this day and age.
Okay, but now, as you see, as we're talking, I'm writing everything down because what you're saying is very important to me. I lost my 80% of my vision 3 years ago, so my hearing's gotten a lot better. And and I key in on certain words that you mentioned, and I believe, like my friend Gary Vaynerchuk wrote a book called Jab, 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 Right Hook, and a lot of people, like you said, they might be consistent, but they're just putting out the wrong content to the wrong places. Like if you're not doing short video, if you're not on Reels, if you're not on, TikTok, if you're not, doing short form video, it used to be a static picture on Instagram, you'd get 1,000 likes. It's not that way anymore. So I think you have to go, for me, I had to learn each platform has its own thing. Like I'm big on Pinterest. I'm big on LinkedIn. That's my biggest place. But, if I'm putting cat videos on LinkedIn, it's not going to work. But if I post every Thursday, if I post a business article that goes out, then I'm going to get traction. But I think I see a lot of people posting the same thing on 8 different platforms and not getting anywhere because they're not paying attention to what the platform is actually used. And the algorithm, they're fighting the algorithm instead of letting the algorithms work with them. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And we do this a lot when it comes to new clients that we get in, right? Like, for example, we work with a lot of B2B. We work with a lot of high ticket coaches, consultants, people that sell to other businesses, service-based businesses and whatnot. And they're mostly B2B, right? And sometimes they come to us and they say, and I'm a big believer on maximizing and going all in on one, maybe two platforms, right? Like on your case, it's LinkedIn, and LinkedIn will provide for you and it will keep on providing for you. Because what I think is that, for example, your audience might not be on TikTok, right? Because it's a younger demographic, or they might not be on some other social platforms. So, for example, clients come to us, and I remember I had this client once that he was like, oh, I want to advertise. I want to start advertising on TikTok, right? And I was like, okay, well, that sounds good. Tell me a little bit about your offer. And he was like, well, we sell consulting to C-suite level executives that are 45 years old plus, that live in the US, and that they are thinking on retiring early and buying a business. So it was a really niche offer, right? C-suite executives, 45 plus, thinking about retiring and buying a business. And I'm like, dude, your audience is not on TikTok. So you don't have to go and advertise on TikTok, right? What you need to do is what you are doing, Richard, which is get really good at LinkedIn content. But also we can run advertising on Facebook, for example. I remember that I used to do advertising for Agora. Agora Publishing is one of the biggest information publishers in the world. And they came to us because they were having issues with some of their verticals, like actually nailing down one of their verticals. And I remember that we were talking to 50 plus males in the US with conservative interests and whatnot. And our offer was to them. So it was I think it was a Roth IRA offer, right? It was a grab your Roth IRA and whatnot and rolling into gold. So it was that type of offer. And it was a financial newsletter offer. So our goal was to get to those folks, and those folks will be on Facebook every day. So depending on your offer, depending on your niche, depending on your demographic, you might want to maximize one or two networks. If your offer is, for example, you have an e-com store that serves stay-at-home moms, 35 plus, then you might go ahead and go and have a lot of traction on Pinterest or Instagram, right? If you have a local business, you might go with Facebook, with Google Ads and whatnot. VSL funnels, like high ticket funnels, they tend to work really well on YouTube as well. So depending on your demographic and your offer and whatnot is where you want to double down on, in my opinion, when it comes to your content. So when I was working with Grant Cardone, I remember that Grant Cardone used to have, I think it was like 15 people on his team alone just for the content that he would put out. And each piece of content that he would put out, they will grab it and they will repurpose that content, not just repurpose in the sense of, oh, we're going to post the same piece of content to Twitter that we do to, IG stories, right? They would actually tweak each piece of content to be relevant to the network that they were posting. But that required 15 people. That was 15 full-time people, three video guys, editors, copywriters, and whatnot, just to sustain the sheer amount of content that Grant Cardone was putting out. So for a small business, that might be a one-man band, or it might be, they might have a small team and whatnot. I almost always recommend that you can repurpose, you can do a lot of good stuff with AI right now. But I think that one of the best things that you could do is to focus and hone in and go all in one, maybe two networks where your ideal demographic will be congregating. It might be a discussion board. It might be a Facebook group. It might be the Facebook timeline. It might be Instagram, and just go all in on that. And then, of course, with AI, you can create additional content, but that would be my intake on it. As much as we do the same with our clients' advertising budget, we don't advertise everywhere. We can advertise everywhere, but sometimes it just makes more sense to dedicate those advertising dollars into one or two platforms and maximize them and give them the best possible ROAS for their time, if that makes sense.
Oh, it totally makes sense. And especially, you like I said, people that listen to this are veterans just either getting out of the military and ready to start a company. They don't have this big marketing budget. So you got to be smart. You have to, that's why for me, when I'm like, okay, I need to learn marketing, I don't have a budget. So I ordered Russell Brunson's trilogy for like $10, whatever it was. But I studied it and then I applied it. But then, after you start studying marketing books, I started hearing this thing called A Hero's Journey. Mm-hmm. I kept on hearing it. And by the way, my best-selling book is called A Hero's Journey. But nice. I had to realize that if everybody's talking about this hero's journey, I need to find out what it is. Now, I only have one ad going out, and I know that when I put that ad out, it's a picture of me in uniform holding my baby daughter, and it's emotional because it tells my story. I know even if I spend $30 a month, it's going to get 100,000 likes. It's going to get shared everywhere because of the hero's journey. Take us a deep dive into what is the hero's journey.
I love this. I love this analogy that you're making when it comes to the hero's journey, because what happens with and it happened to me. You're mentioning about that ad with you on your uniform holding your baby daughter. I remember that the first time that I wrote a $1 million ad for someone, it wasn't even an ad. It was like me telling the story of this client that I had, right? And it all started with, it started with the struggles, like the struggles that you go through as you start. And then it goes into what's called, an epiphany bridge, or it might be that you're fed up with something and you decide to change, or you have an epiphany, right? You realize something, sometimes by mistake and whatnot. And then you go into this journey of discovery after that epiphany. And then you come on the other way, or on the other side of that learning and this journey of discovery with a big idea. In a nutshell, that's kind of, the hero's journey in the 30,000 feet overview. But something that I realized is the power of storytelling on advertising, right? I remember that the first time that I wrote a $1 million ad for somebody was for Dan Henry, which is a good friend of mine and whatnot. And he's still a client. And I wanted to do something different, right? All of the ads that we had were him teaching and here being really tactical, and they worked really well. But I remember that I went ahead and I wanted to do something different. So I applied kind of this hero's journey strategy and framework to his ad, and I started telling his story and telling his hero's journey when he was struggling at the beginning, delivering pizzas for 7+ years and whatnot. And then how he was fed up with it. And then the epiphany that he had, and then the teachings and learnings that he had. And then also I went ahead and add a little bit of value on that same ad, like telling exactly people, what they would needed to do in order to get successful and all of those things. And then we had a little bit of a pitch at the end, which was, keep your teaching, keep your learning, or continue your learning, I should say, on this free webinar, right? I remember that by the time I was finished with that ad, it was a 15 to 1600 word article, right? It was a 1600 word article. And then I grabbed that text and I posted on his Facebook page. And I attached a picture of him and his wife just hanging out, right? It was a selfie style picture. They were just hanging out. I think they were going to the movies or something. So he took a picture, and that was one of the best performing articles that or ads that I've ever written. It wasn't even like a real ad. It was like just a page post that we push out to his ideal audience. And then it got like thousands of shares. It got tens of thousands of comments, but most importantly, got a bunch of leads, and it got him to the point that ad alone generated him $1 million. And the point of this is that it was really connecting with the audience, because a hero's journey, it allows you to connect with the audience in a deep level, right? In a really, really deep level, just by telling a story. If you listen to Russell Brunson, for example, if you listen to his podcast, if you see him on stage, all that the guy does is he's telling stories. He's a storyteller, right? He goes through the hero's journey over and over and over again to illustrate a point, and he's fantastic at what he does. So I remember that I was at one of his conferences, and I sat down, and in a, like, I think it was like maybe a 90-minute spot that he had on stage, I think he told something like 25 or 27 stories in like 90 minutes. And I was actually writing them down. They were so good. But the hero's journeys can literally change your business, because it allows people to connect with you. And if you use that in your advertising, it's game over. So
now, I do have a traumatic brain injury, so a lot of times I forget. And I've read so many books, but I can't. I wish I could remember the name of the author. You're going to come out with it just like that. He put out a book called Story Brand.
Oh, Story Brand. Yes.
It's all about telling stories. It's all about emotion. Because, people, I sold timeshare for, I think, 6 years. And if I tried to sell on logic, nobody is buying anything on logic.
Right.
But if you sell them on emotion, people are more invested because of the emotional part. And logically, nobody needs a Lamborghini.
Right.
Nobody, if you really think about it logically, nobody needs a Lambo or a Ferrari. It's all about the emotion of having that, of being seen driving it, being, you know what I mean? So talk to us about, because for me, I'm learning copywriting, but I'm also learning that if I put out a post and it's emotional, because that's all, I'm an emotional kind of guy, it'll get shared, it'll get posted. But if I put something that's logical out there, I'll hear crickets. Right. Nobody's sharing, nobody's commenting. So talk to us about putting emotion into your marketing and branding.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. By the way, the author is Donald Miller from Storybrand, So that's the one. I had to search it too. I had the book in my hands like 2 days ago. But anyways, so, in terms of your audience, right? In terms of your audience, you have people that take action or take decisions or make decisions differently, right? Like as human beings, we all make decisions emotionally, like 100% of us. So we make a decision emotionally, and then we justify it with logic, we justify it with reason. But there's some people in your audience, there's a subset of people in your audience that are really in touch with their emotion, and they're really impulsive buyers, right? Like those people are the ones that you are addressing to when you are using emotion, and when you're using, for example, something like the hero's journey and storytelling in your content, in your ads, in your webinars, in your landing pages, you're addressing to them. Now, there's also another subset of people, which are the logical type, right? So those people, they need pros and cons, they need bullet points, they need benefits, they need features, they need a countdown, they need to make logical sense of their purchase. Now, the funny thing is that logical people, they don't engage with stuff as much. Like, emotional people, they will go ahead, they'll share it to your, they'll share it with their families and whatnot, and they will end up buying. Logical people, they don't as much. However, I've seen many of my clients that they might have maybe just a handful of followers on Instagram, and every time they post something, which is, definitely on the logical side, they don't get as much interaction, but they will get a lot of buyers. So, something that I heard, I think it was Grant Cardone, to say is that don't ever discount the lurkers. The lurkers are those people that are just lurking around your content, right? They don't engage, they don't say anything, they don't comment, they don't share. But if you come up with a strong argument as to why they should buy the thing that you're selling, they will go for it, right? So I see a lot of people that are, because we all like to have shares and likes and engagement and whatnot, but that's just part of the equation when it comes to the ads. If you combine both, if you combine the emotional side of things with the logical side of things, you can actually talk to everyone in your audience as much as you can talk to a lot of people or different people based on how they make decisions, if they want to get closer to pleasure or if they want to get away from pain. So for example, when you're writing a piece of copy or when you're writing an email sequence or even when you're writing an ad, you need to put yourself in the shoes of the person that maybe you're really attracted to pleasure, meaning you're thinking about how can I make this happen, how the results that I'm going to get, all of the things that I'm going to achieve when I get this result, right? So you put that in your copy. If you only use that, then you're missing out on the other 50% of people, which are they just want to get away from pain. So you want to highlight both. You want to highlight the logical side of things and the emotional side of things. You can do this with different pieces. And additionally, you want to highlight getting closer to pleasure, meaning getting closer to your goals, but also getting away from pain. That's why, for example, on a soap opera sequence, which is a sequence that we write on email, generally after a lead magnet and whatnot, you would have emails that are emotional. You'll have emails that are logical. You have emails that will tell everything that people will gain when they get access to your course, your program, get your product and whatnot. And we also have emails saying everything that they will lose unless they take action, right? Like scarcity mindset, countdown sequences, all of that. So if you combine those aspects, then you can develop a really successful marketing campaign for your business. So,
and I totally agree. But now I also see, like for me, the first 2 hours of my day is answering emails. It's responding to almost every comment that I could see. I'm going to respond to the comments. It's commenting on other people's posts. Mm-hmm. I have a certain number that on each platform, every morning I go, I'm going to comment and I'm going to share, because that's building, relationships. And that's something that Gary taught me. He's like, the first couple of years in business, he did nothing but hang out in the DMs, answering questions, providing value, building relationships. And for me, I see a lot of people are not social on social media. If I have a post and you say something on my post, I'm going to respond to your post just to know that, you took the time out to put a comment. I may just say thank you for leaving that comment. But for me, that's building another string in the relationship. So talk about that, how sometimes you have to become social on social media.
Yeah, no, and this is something funny enough. I work with social media all the time and we run ads all the time, but I had to learn to do this, right? Because for me, I was always kind of I would say in the dashboard on Facebook, right? In the back of Facebook, in the back door of Facebook, just running ads, not necessarily engaging with anyone. I just wanted to just say, well, let's just run ads, get leads, get money, and go home, right? That's what I wanted to know, and what I wanted to do. But one of the things that I learned after going, I think over the past 2 years, I decided to go all in, or all out rather, on content, right? So for the past 2 years, I've been decently consistent when it comes to putting content on YouTube, for example, on our YouTube channel, sometimes 3 times a week, sometimes once a week. But I've been semi-consistently there, putting content on our YouTube channel for the past 6 and 7 years. But in places like Facebook and Instagram and whatnot, I wasn't as consistent as I would like, because we were focused on running ads. But since I started putting content out and we went all out on putting out content, and now we're consistently putting 3 to 4 pieces of content per day on many, many platforms, our reach has grown dramatically, but also the comments that we get, the DMs that we get, all of the stuff has also grown dramatically, right? So, and for the most part, I just neglected it. For the most part, I didn't think that it was a big deal, that it was a high level activity. That's how I call them, right? The first couple of days of my day are blogs just for HLA, right? High level activities, which might be writing copy, emailing the list, and whatnot. But lately, it has also been responding to comments. It has also been talking about my day on Instagram stories, right? Because I was discounting that, but then the reality is that I realized, just by going through the best months ever that we had in our company, is one of the things that I did was I was out there generating connections on social media. I was out there literally being more active on social media. I was generating connections, and I was talking to a lot of people. So that there's a I would say there's a measurable degree of success that we achieved just because I realized, oh well, this is important, I should start doing it, right? It's not just comments for comments sake, but it's comments for relationship sake, and relationships, you need to invest in those relationships every single day. So
Nope. And now, like I had my friend Dennis Yu on, one of the greatest people that I've ever known. One of my brothers, and he taught me, if you're a new business owner and if you don't have thousands of dollars to start out with, you can start with $1 a day.
yep.
I do $1 a day just on Facebook. And the thing about Facebook, I mean, even though people say it is kind of expensive, but even for $1 a day, you can put an ad, and it can tell you, you can pick the age of the person, the male, where they live, their interests. You can really, instead of being that in the military, we call somebody that just prays and sprays, or you can be a sniper on Facebook. And a lot of people think, well, I don't have a lot of money to invest. Well, you can invest $100 a month, and you'll be amazed how much traction you can build, even just for $1 or $3 a day, because they let you market to the exact person you're looking for. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I love that strategy. I love that strategy. And that is one of the strategies that I learned when I was working with Frank Kern. I know that Dennis does a great job with the $1 a day campaigns. But here's something that we do also at scale-driven.com for all of our clients, especially since they're selling high ticket stuff, right? And this works whether you're selling high ticket or not. But what we notice is that most of our clients, if not all of them, they have a personal brand. They're putting out content, right? They're putting out content semi-regularly and whatnot. And most of the time, they're just relying on the algorithm to show that content, right, to people. And what you can very well do is go back, the past, let's say 90 days of your content, the content that you've been putting out on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Grab the best performing content, grab your most prominent pieces. For some reason, people seem to like that. The algorithm seems to like it. And you get more shares, you get more comments, more likes, more consumption on those pieces of content. And you can push that type of content out with $1 a day through what's called an engagement campaign on Facebook. Because what happens is that on Facebook and on Instagram, you get rewarded if you get people within the platform. If you get people to stay in the platform, whether it is Facebook, Google, YouTube, doesn't matter. They want people to stay in their website. Right. And the way you do that is by running, for example, on YouTube, they're called discovery ads. On Facebook, they're called engagement ads or video views ads. Right. And we use that strategy a lot because what happens is that, number one, you'll get, you spend $100 a day, you won't get 100 times the engagement. You will get a lot more than that. You will get a lot more than that on the engagement side of things. For your content. But number two, what happens is that when somebody hops on the phone with you, they visit your website, they send you an email, they want to buy your stuff, they will, number one, become better clients because they are pre-educated in your brand. They've been consuming your stuff before actually visiting you, right? This is all before the click, right? Before somebody visits your website. So across the board, what we're seeing is that average order values tend to go up. Lifetime values of the customers tend to go up. Sales cycles go down. So sales cycles shorten. So a sales cycle that might take a company 3 months from cold traffic to close somebody into a high ticket, from a lead to a close, it might take 3 months. That might go down to 15 days, right? To 2 to 3 weeks, just by the fact that we are pushing our advertising dollars behind the best performing content. And then on the advanced side of things, if you want to get a little bit more advanced, you can create audiences on Facebook as well. You can grab, for example, people that are consuming 50%, 75%, 95% of your videos and put them all in an audience. And then you can show ads to that audience. So now all right, well, these guys, if your videos are, let's say, 1 minute or 2 minutes long, then these people, they spend 2 minutes with you on their timelines on Facebook, on Instagram, and whatnot, and then you can serve more ads to those people. We're creating this omnipresence feeling, and we're also helping, the audience find you, because you can be really, specific with your targeting. And as you said, it doesn't cost much. It's actually one of the most effective, I would say, cost-effective techniques to get your message out there.
And I had one of the Facebook executives come on, and he said, one thing a lot of people don't realize is they don't use the Facebook birthday. They don't use that in besides building. Like for me, anybody that I'm connected on Facebook, I'm building relationships. Mm-hmm. So if it's, I go on every day, check everybody's birthday. I'm going to send a Facebook message. I'll send a video. Just let them know, hey, happy birthday, love you. But a lot of people don't realize that as soon as you do that, it kicks you up right into their algorithm.
Right.
And you might not have talked to that person in 3 years, but just because you said, hey, bro, happy birthday, have a great day, it automatically kicked you right to the top of their algorithm. Nice. So talk about that a little bit, that I don't really hear anybody talking about.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that you can do. Another thing that, the birthday thing, I think it's great, especially on DMs, right? Especially if you're sending a direct message to people. Something that I do with all of my Facebook requests is I send a message. So whenever I get a new friend request, I accept them. First off, I check that, we have enough friends in common. So when I send a friend request on Facebook, or I get a friend request, I always DM and message the person. And I do it without any agenda, without any pitch in mind, just like, hey, thank you for connecting. Tell me more about you, to see if I can connect you with somebody else, right? Because that's the goal of networks like that, is the connection side of things. And that automatically will put you on their timeline, because now you're interfacing with that person. And not only that, but you will get, for example, I would get recommended people that I was just talking to on Facebook, on Instagram. Right? Hey, you may want to follow this person on Instagram too, because you were talking a second ago on Facebook, and they belong to the same company. So they do that, right? So that happens a lot. And not only it will affect on the score, quote unquote, that you have on Facebook, but then you start showing up, higher on their Instagram feed as well, because Facebook cross-checks, right? And say, okay, well, now Rich and Hernan have been talking for a while, back and forth on IGDMs. So let's put them forward. Let's put them closer on Facebook, and vice versa. So it's just a simple thing like that can go a long way. That's when you see people that have, for example, if you post something on Facebook and you get just a handful of likes, and then you have somebody else post something on Facebook and they have 200, 300, 400 likes, right? Or a bunch of comments. The reason behind it is because they've been nurturing their following on Facebook. They've been DMing people. They were being consistently posting, and they've been also posting good stuff. So these little techniques and hacks, I love them, because it just takes like 30 seconds and it makes a big difference.
All right. So this is a teaching podcast. So the last couple of minutes, if somebody is starting a business June 23rd, 2023, what would be your top 3 pieces of advice for a brand new spanking business owner?
So I would guess advice number 1 would be, get out of your own way to be helpful, right? For people. First things, if you're just starting out your business, you will not have a lot of social proof. You will not have a lot of track record. You will not have a lot of testimonials, right? So offering to work for free for people in exchange of a testimonial and maybe some referrals, that's one of the fastest way to get out there and build your community, build your tribe. Okay, that would be number 1. So be helpful and offer to work for free, ideally to those people that potentially might have a following, potentially might be in your ideal demographic, in exchange of a testimonial and a referral, because on the referrals you can actually charge. So that's your marketing initially, right? So that would be number 1. Number 2 is start putting out content, but instead of putting out content from the perspective of what you can teach, because if you're just starting out, maybe you cannot teach much about that thing that you're selling or that you're starting out, but you have a story, right? You have a life behind you. You have some teaching moments that you can go ahead and share with your audience, right? And you can also talk about documenting. Like, you can document your journey. Oh, you know what, guys? Today I reached out to 5 people. 3 of them reply, and 2 of them gave me referrals. That is something that a lot of people want to consume, right? How you're building your business in real time. So you can talk about your story. You can talk about what's happening in your day-to-day, right? And you can put that content out there. And number 3, what we just talked about, grab that content, put it on your Facebook page or on your Instagram profile, dedicate $1 a day to a piece of content. If you can only do this for 2 weeks out of the month because you only have $15 to spend on advertising right now, so be it. If you can do this 1 week of the month because you only have $5 to spend on advertising in a month, so be it. Ideally, you would have, $30, $60, maybe $100 a month to spend. Just stop going to Starbucks, put that money back in your business, right? But that is something that I would recommend. So just to recap, number 1, go out there, offer your services, your products for free in exchange for a testimonial or a referral. Number 2, create content about your story, around your personality, the hero's journey, and what you're doing with your business, and put that content out there and put $1 a day behind it. And pretty soon you will get a nice income coming in of people coming in from different directions. So,
all right. So, and I just wanted to touch on something, because when we log off, I am going to ask you to leave a review. I am going to ask you to subscribe, but I tell everybody, if I gave a 1-star interview, then that's exactly what I deserve. But I know a lot of business owners, they don't ask for Google reviews on their business, and they don't realize, well, that kicks you up in the algorithm. I mean, I think we have something like 470 5-star reviews for our podcast, because that all helps in kicking you up into for me, my podcast is now linked up there with Tom Bilyeu, with Ed Milet, because there's people that, like you said earlier, you have a track record. Mm-hmm. And once people see you have a track record, they're like, it's kind of like if you're opening up a brand new restaurant and have no stars, I'm not going there.
Right.
But if I say, wait a minute, they got 80 reviews and, 4.5 stars, yeah, I'm going to go, because social proof. So I totally agree exactly what you're saying. So now, how do we find you? How do we support your mission? I know you're big everywhere, but how can the Dubs find you?
Yeah, definitely. Well, Hernan Vazquez in all socials, on IG, Facebook, Instagram, whatnot, Twitter. Again, if you go to YouTube, we have a YouTube channel with a lot of content. We talk about business, we talk about funnels, we talk about ads, marketing, like all of that good stuff on YouTube. And then if you want to learn more about what we do, you can go to scaledriven.com. You'll see a message there. And if that message resonates with what you're doing right now, we can have a quick conversation to see if we're a good fit. And yeah, that's basically it.
I love it. So guys, make sure you check out his IG account. It's fire. I love it. I get so much value. His is the first account that I go to every morning to see what I can learn for the day. So make sure you check out his IG, but his LinkedIn account, I love. So guys, as you know, I'm a big Joe Osteen guy, and I believe that you can either be the victim or the victor. So if you feel like business is kicking your ass, it's time for you to be a victor and take charge of your business and make it recession-proof by listening to what we talked about. I love you guys. Remember, vertical momentum, the only way to go is but up. And make sure you check us out on all the platforms. Hernan, brother, thank you so much.
Thank you, man. It's been my pleasure. It's been great. Thank you for having me.
Have an amazing day, and hopefully you're going to have an amazing week. So crush it, my brother.
Thank you.